You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
A second, but first, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, you can tackle the NFL action over at FanDuel. New customers can bet $5, get $100 back, and $150 back. I'm selling short. And bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. You get the hunch in the middle of the game. You can check out the latest stats, you live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get $150 back in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and move every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Park Ranger Locked On Coogs are looking at national stories in college football and how they're impacting the Houston Cougars. And I think the one that hit the closest to home and might have been the most obvious actually dropped later in the day on Monday. And that is that Dana Holgorsen, after having spent a year being a consultant at TCU and a consultant turned interim offensive coordinator in Nebraska, former Houston head football coach Dana Holgorsen is officially going to be on a 2-year contract, the offensive coordinator at Nebraska, right? And for what it's worth, I don't know if he can still do the same coordinator thing he did when he came through Houston the first time through. My understanding is that would probably be more up his alley and speed, and that some of the things about being at Houston were the size of that coach. I don't know. This is not the Nebraska show. You can go check that one out. But because of his obvious ties to the University of Houston, a lot of people were starting to wonder, what does this mean, right? Houston's got a buyout, the largest buyout the school's ever gone through. They're paying him out, right? And it's crazy, crazy, crazy. Got to pay it all out, right? It's, all of it for the first couple of years, chunk of it for the next couple of years, etc. And in doing reporting back when it happened, I think the first group I saw do was Go Coogs. And so I want to make sure I give Monso or whoever there was credit with that. But it was laid out that the payments would happen in monthly payments, just like he were being paid on staff. So it'd be $300,000 a month or something for the duration of 5 years. And he would also have a mitigation clause, meaning that he had to be able to, kind of like someone has to prove if they're qualifying for unemployment, they have to prove they're looking for a job every so often, right? Dana Holgorsen have to prove that he's looking for a job as part of the mitigation clause, and that once he got a job, there'd be some portion of the buyout mitigated by his new salary, assuming it was competitive and a bunch of the legal jargon, right? Now, all that is to say that if you're thinking about it, is probably why he spent the fall consulting with his buddy, Gary Patterson, his buddy Sonny Dykes over at TCU. It's probably why he got involved with Nebraska when he did. Those kinds of things, right? As long as he's, helping further his own career, I think he's qualifying for that $300,000 a month for Houston. And also, he just gets this gig. And so the question becomes, well, what does that do towards what Houston has to pay him? Houston still has to pay him the difference between his buyout, which was just over $14 million in total, and whatever else he gets paid. And while his analyst and those kinds of things, the salaries for that aren't necessarily out there, now he's got an offensive coordinator job. We can see what he's getting paid. He's going to get paid $1.2 million a year over the 2-year contract for $2.4 million. Now, I didn't see a signing bonus on it, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll call it $2.5 million, just to be even numbers on it. That means that out of the buyout, Houston's still going to owe him over $11 million. And that's still a lot of money being paid to a former head football coach, right? Now, I don't mean to snark at or look at funny saving $2.5 million because he got a job. Houston, and as far as the operating budget goes, that needs every penny they can for the internal parts of the program so that the donor money can be spent on things like NIL programs, right? It's not that $2.4 million is going to be funneled into NIL directly, but if you can spend that $2.4 million on things like finishing up the football ops building, right, then your donor money people are putting in that. You're like, hey, why don't you send that to Lincoln Coogs or whatever your NIL choice group is, right? Roy NIL, who we worked with before at Locked On, is a great company too. Whomever you're trying to get the NIL money to, get it that way, right? And so while that roundabout way does save Houston $2.5 million, I felt like a lot of people were jumping to conclusions on what this meant online. And I that's why I wanted to do the digging, wanted to do the talking about it. It felt like people were like thinking, oh, we're done paying him now. He's got a job. We're off the hook. We saved, 13, $12 million to, and it's far from that. Right. It's not nothing. Saving $2.5 million at the spot Houston's at is important, but it's also not everything. And I think that realistic look at what this is important to kind of gauge as we go. It's easy to get caught up in the moment of these, and a year from now he may get a fat extension that goes above and beyond. The $1.2 million he's getting as a coordinator is a lot of money for a coordinator in this day and age in college football, right? And so I don't think there's any argument Houston can make that's or could ever make or would ever be worth making that he's like undercutting what a real salary would be at that spot. That's just how much more a Power 4 head football coach gets than a coordinator, right? That's just the way it goes. And so I think that Houston can hope that year one of coordinating at Nebraska goes well enough to get Dana Holgorsen a bump in salary and a new job somewhere else, right? And that may be a way to save some of the back end money in the contract, but over $10 million, this is done. And that's a lot of money to buy out for Houston. I don't mean to say that they're, it's not, but and I get set why saving 2.5 is important. I worry that people jump the gun to get really excited about something that really seems very mundane in the grand scheme of things. We'll save every penny we can. We'll sell every blue T-shirt I bought a couple myself. We'll sell every blue T-shirt we can. All that, right? I just want to make sure that we also understand where things really are. This does not mean you can stop donating money if you're a donor. Please keep that going in. The Dana Holgorsen $2.5 million being sent back, or like that's not enough to negate anything being sent in. Anyway, we got all kinds of fun stuff this week. Football offseason starting, so it's portal talk, portal talk, portal talk. Wednesday is signing day. Most prospective Cougs know they're signing. There will undoubtedly be a couple of surprises. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell so you know we're live here at Locked On Cougs. Houston also gets back on the hardwood this weekend, so we'll get back to talking about it very soon. Got some basketball wrapping up of it's not quite an MTE, but the NIL Players Era Festival and kind of those couple challenging road games. Houston falls in the AP poll because they played a couple tough games and all that kind of stuff. And how they spend December getting back on track before Big 12 play starts next month. I guess technically December 30th. That's actually this month. Oh, man, we got a lot to do here at Locked On Cougs. Hit subscribe, hit the bell so you know we're live. Locked On Cougs is primarily Locked On podcast network. That means your team every day. Go Cougs.